Here's what you're missing over at patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
It's okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg. Spotlight on none other than Rich Condon. You know him. You love him. But do you really know him? Do you know him like I'm about to get to know him for you? No, you don't, because you haven't heard this interview yet. But you're going to hear it now. And then we're going to get to know Richie even more. I call him Richie because I assume it annoys him. But I don't know. So we'll find out in this interview. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Condon. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm pretty sure you've always called me Richie.
I have.
It just came naturally.
You're like a Richie to me.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you know, I don't add an E at the end of somebody's name unless it's a term of endearment, right? I'm not going to call somebody I don't like Richie.
Right. Understandable.
So I don't do it to annoy, but I just assumed it annoyed you because I never heard anybody else call you Richie. Although
I never stopped you.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And your handle, isn't it like Richie Richwich or something?
Richie Richwich.
Yes.
Yep.
So I guess you embrace it.
And honestly, it wasn't me I didn't give myself that name. It was a former colleague, actually, in my first public history job that gave me that name, Richie Richwich.
Richie Richwich.
Yep.
What's the witch part? Just because it rhymes?
I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
Just somebody came in and said, Richie Richwich sounds good.
What'd you say, Abe?
Glad we're not in the 1600s.
Why?
I heard there's a witch.
The witch trials. So next time you want to talk, pull that mic to your mouth.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah, that makes sense. That's all right. All right, so let's get into this here and find out who you are. First of all, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, let me apologize in advance. I have yet another something going on with my sinuses. Of course, I went back to the gym this week, and after going there 3 days, I come down with something, which is always the case, and this is why I don't work out. So, Rich, you were born where?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And you
4
grew
hours
up
from
there?
here. Yep, I grew up there in Pittsburgh's north side.
Were you born in Pittsburgh or the Pittsburgh area?
In Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh
proper.
So you're a city boy.
I'm a city boy.
So how did you get into a war that took place mostly on farms?
Well, it was actually my first trip to Gettysburg. I think I was 10 or 11 years old, and my dad had me. We actually went to. I don't know if anybody remembers Giant Eagle Video. I don't know if it exists anywhere outside of Pittsburgh.
Eagle?
It's Eagle.
In Pittsburgh, it's Eagle.
Because we call it, if you talk to any Yinzer, it's Eagle.
Right.
You don't say Eagle.
Right.
It's weird.
How God forbid.
So they actually had on, above the door, Giant Eagle, Iggle. So anyway, we went to Giant Eagle, rented the, double VHS Gettysburg, watched it in one night, and got up early the next morning, like 8 o'clock in the morning. Drove to Gettysburg, and
really,
the rest is history. So
because did you already have a plan to go to Gettysburg, or was that because
it was
of
kind
the
of
movie?
a last minute thing? He's like,
Really?
"Hey, what are your thoughts on going to Gettysburg?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't really know anything about it." So he's like, "Well, let's rent this movie." He loved Sam Elliott, of course. So
who doesn't?
Naturally, that's what he wanted to do, and he convinced me to go. I was always interested in history, mostly ancient history. I remember. Carnegie Science Center in Pittsburgh a long time ago, they had this thing called the OmniMax Theater. Mm-hmm. And it was this massive dome that played, it was something on the pyramids and the pharaohs.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating. But once I was shown, I guess more recent history, Civil War history, comparatively, I thought it was fascinating because I could actually go to these places.
Right.
And Gettysburg, of course, was only 3.5 hours away from home. And that's when the history bug bit me.
Those Omni theaters, I'm surprised they didn't become more popular or last longer, because I remember I went to one on a scout trip. I want to say it was in Boston, maybe at the Children's Museum or near there, or maybe we went there the same day we went to the Children's Museum. I don't remember, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
And it was like, it put you in the middle of whatever scene you were in. I'm surprised this didn't catch on.
I remember they used to show, like, they would light up the screen and show you the speakers behind the screen, how it works, like in surround sound.
Yeah.
The lighting was so cool. Anyway, it was very immersive.
Yes.
You felt like you're on a roller coaster when they're doing the overhead shots and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I think a couple of years ago they did away with it and just basically put up a big screen. So
That's a shame. It must be
kids
too
now are going to miss
expensive.
out. I think so. Yeah.
Well, no, but they have VR goggles now.
Fair enough.
And my nephew got one for Christmas last year. And we were all trying it out. And we did this thing where we were on a roller coaster. And I literally fell. I was standing still in the middle of the room. And I fell from just going dizzy from, going up. And then when we got up to the top, every direction I looked, I'm looking down on the world. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing goes down, and I lost my balance, and I fell. And everybody thought the kids thought it was funny.
See, I've yet to try VR, so I don't know what.
Have you tried it,
now
Jake?
I'm kind of hesitant.
I have.
Jake, yeah. Jake Wynn is here, too. You and what do you think? Did you fall down?
No, but I did get nauseous.
Yeah. It's awesome. Physical injury aside, it's there was one game he had. It was very rudimentary. Like it wasn't very detailed. It didn't look realistic, but it felt realistic.
Minecraft?
Where it was like a shooting game, and it was just these. Did you ever see like an artist mannequin? Those little wooden things that an artist would use to sketch or sculpt the human body, just so they could see them. Basically, that's what it was. It was like computerized those things coming after you, and you had to shoot them. And yeah, but it was cool though. And I found that I'm a pretty good shot, believe it or not. So
You can't pull that off in an OmniMax theater.
no, you could not.
No.
So all right, so you come down to Gettysburg. Do you remember your first time here?
I remember going to Devil's Den. Of course, we hit all the second day and third day stuff. So Little Round Top. Of course, we went to the high water mark. That's really all I remember, I think. I actually have a couple pictures that I found in the last maybe year or two of me. And, of course, we had, like, the really cheap, kepis they would sell in the store. I don't know if they'd sell those anymore, but...
yeah.
Okay. I can't imagine they get rid of those. But
No.
But I had that and, a little, like, haversack-looking satchel on, real nerd-like, and posing in front of the Reynolds Monument.
Right.
The Reynolds death site. I remember we went to the Jenny Wade house. And then I think just a few months later, I came back with my mom and did a lot of the same stuff.
And you felt so cool, I'm sure, wearing that kepi and satchel.
Of course I did.
Yeah, I know. That's the great thing about being a kid. So just a simple little thing like a hat makes you feel awesome.
Yeah. It was immersive.
Yes.
And I think the second trip, when I came with my mom, I actually met a Berdan's sharpshooter reenactor on Little Round Top.
Okay.
And that opened a whole other world to me. At a young age, I actually came back to Pittsburgh and started reenacting. I found a local unit that actually met in the Captain Thomas SPGR post.
Okay.
The 9th Pennsylvania Reserves. And
Now, when was this? How old were you?
about 12 years old.
And you're how old now?
33.
33. So 20 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Holy wow.
Sorry.
It's okay. I never thought about that.
Didn't mean to do that to you.
It's okay.
Thanks for the close-up on me wiping my nose, Aim.
Learning.
It's all right. It's all right. Just okay. So you're 12 years old. You start reenacting. What do you do other than that? Like, do you have any other interests or hobbies? Music, sports, anything like that?
Yeah, I played music. So when I was in elementary school, so before I was even bitten by the history bug, I learned how to play upright bass, like classical music.
Nice.
I had a teacher who, we had a very small orchestra in my elementary school, a little bit north of the north side of Pittsburgh, a place called Westview, and they needed a bass player, an upright bass player. So this teacher said, "All right, if you're willing to learn, I will stay with you every day after school for the next 3 months and teach you how to read music." So I did it, and I started playing in the orchestra. But then as I got older, I saw somebody playing a bass guitar. I was like, "Oh, that looks pretty cool. Looks cooler than what I'm playing right now." So I learned how to play bass guitar. And then from that, I just taught myself other instruments. I just learned everything by ear. Mm-hmm. And so basically, about as long as I've been into history, I've been into music as well.
So you can actually read music, or have you lost
It's been
that?
a long time since I've had to read music because a lot of the work that I did, I eventually moved in 2010 to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was a session musician.
Oh, really?
And I never I never really had to read music. I just did everything by ear. I wrote music by ear. I listened to a song and then write a part to it in a really short amount of time. And then that's how I was able to make some extra money.
Most pop music is that way anyway. Or not pop, but like non-classical music.
Yeah.
Right? It's like maybe you just get chord charts or something and
yeah, or
improvise.
I mean there's some people that do prefer to, read music.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how they learn, but I just kind of trained myself to do everything by ear eventually.
I think that's better though, is because then you're more marketable if you can improvise. Because I think most people wing it. When I was in music, most people just winged it. Nobody. The most you would write out is like, A7, D7,
right.
And you'd make little hash marks to indicate that you're going to do those two chords in one measure,
right?
But nothing about where they're placed or anything like that.
The song structure,
stuff
like that.
Yeah. And then, you would just write chorus, and then we used to just list the chords in order, and then be like, all right, this is where they're placed, and,
right?
Just go,
yeah.
Because it takes the fun out of it, doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I the way I always saw it was if you kind of stick to the rules, which within reason you should.
Yeah.
But if you stick to the rules all the time, then that kind of eliminates a lot of creativity too.
I agree.
At least that's the way that I felt. And
that's the way I feel too.
It always worked for me that way, and I was always able to find work doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think learning stuff by ear and playing by ear also helped me retain information very quickly, which also eventually came into play when I got into the field of public history.
Okay.
Just learning stuff really quickly and being able to incorporate it into programming.
Isn't that funny though? Like all the things that we do as young people, sports, music, whatever, they teach us things that we're going to use later in life, and we may never play a sport again. We never play an instrument again. But somehow you could take the principles you learn in those things and put them into whatever it is you end up doing professionally.
Yeah.
Right? Because I liken this to music a lot in the sense that, like, you got to learn how to work with other people. You have to learn how to read another person and play off of them and all that stuff. And you either have that ability or you don't. And it's really tough when somebody doesn't.
Right.
Well,
one thing I noticed when I lived down there too, and obviously like back in 2010, 2011, this is before Nashville became what it is now.
What is it now?
It's the bachelorette party capital of the United States.
Oh, God. Is it really?
It is. That's one of the reasons I moved away.
I don't blame you. Oh, my God. So it's all these woo-hoo girls running down there with their little
pedal taverns,
tiaras on. And
yeah.
Ugh.
I think the moment I decided I'm done was I was hanging out on the patio of one of my favorite watering holes, a place called Red Door East in the 5 Points of East Nashville. I lived like 2 blocks away. And I'm sitting there enjoying a drink with my friend, and these girls get out of a car. Of course, they're dressed to the nines, and they walk up in the patio and are like, "Hey, are you a hipster?" And I was like, "What? Are you a hipster? I have this long checklist, and I have to get a picture, a selfie with a hipster, or else I don't win."
God!
And I just got up out of my chair and walked inside.
You should have thrown your drink in her face.
I have a little bit of couth.
Yeah. If she was on the other foot, she would have thrown the drink.
That's very likely. Mm-hmm. But and that wasn't the first time something like that had happened. But I was like, man, I'm seeing this way too often now.
So is it really that big of a bachelor party hub from like all over the country, or just Tennessee? Really?
Yeah. Back home in Pittsburgh, people still ask me like, "Hey, I'm going to Nashville for a bachelorette party. Where should I go?" I'm like, I don't know. Most of the places that I knew when I lived there are gone.
Right, because of all the bachelorette parties, they destroyed them.
Well, or it was just way too expensive for upkeep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, it's been. I moved away in 2016. I think it was.
What was it that made people look at it as a place to have a bachelorette party?
I don't know. Honestly,
is it a reality show or anything? Was there a reality show out of there?
I'm trying to think. There's one called like...
Was it a Real Housewives type of thing? Or?
Oh, there's definitely a Real Housewives Nashville. There was a... there's a couple reality shows. And of course, there's the... I don't know, it was like a primetime show, the show Nashville.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's a lot of those things. And also, of course, I always say... BuzzFeed is like the death of all my favorite places because they'll have those lists that say most livable place in the United States.
Yeah.
Well, it's livable until everyone finds out about it.
Until they read that article.
Then it's not.
Yeah, exactly. But I hope they never mention Gettysburg. Have they been on?
Maybe.
Has
No, I don't think it has.
I don't think so. May it never.
Maybe they'll attach themselves to your podcast.
No, I hope not. What is BuzzFeed? Is that like? Listen to the rest of this interview and dozens like it. Support the show and get early access to special episodes, early and discounted ticket sales, and more. The second lieutenant level and above gets access to all monthly Patreon episodes. So please go to patreon.com/addressinggettysburg, choose a tier, and join. And I thank you in advance.